Today is the first time to learn Korean sentences. Combining what you are curious about and the thing that I selected, there are 4 groups of topic like this. Characteristic of Korean sentences, order of Korean sentences, things to be aware of Korean adjectives, how to practice Korean sentences. Okay, the purpose of this class is to listen to my explanation and make you get a feel for how to study Korean sentences by yourself. And now, let's focus on the first topic. First, the characteristic of Korean sentence is predicate words are important. I repeat this over and over again. The most important part of studying Korean sentence is the predicates at the end of the sentence. Then, why do I keep saying that predicate is important all the time? Okay, tell me just 2 reasons. First, the Korean predicates combine the morpheme with various endings to create meanings and nuance of the sentence. Sometimes Korean predicates are dense enough to compress 2 or 3 words of meaning or grammatical function into 1 word. So, if you miss that part, you will not only misunderstanding the meanings, but also completely misread the speaker's intentions. The second feature that you should pay attention to is the predicate determines the structure of the sentence. It means that the predicate influences whether a subject or object or particle is needed in sentence. In other words, if you study just a particle, practice objects separately without understanding predicates first, you will never get the hang of it. Okay, then now let's move on to the next. Secondly, let's look at the order of Korean sentence. The simplest sentence in all language is comment. So let's look at this. Go. 가. It's too easy, right? Then let me add one more thing here. Then what will happen? Go now. 지금 가. As you can see, the order of the sentence is reversed. In English sentences, now followed by a verb, but in Korean, 지금 came before the verb. Shall we add one more thing? Go home now. 지금 집에 가. In Korean, the more additional information there is, the more verb is pushed back. But in English, the verb is pushed forward, right? Then now, back to the point. So, how does predicates affect this structure? Let's check our PDF. I always make the section of a particle used together. So when you look at the day 1 of verb, it is indicate that 에게, 으로, 을. It means 가다 verb forms these 3 structures. 에게 가다, 으로 가다, 을 가다. Or other sentences are transformed from these basic structures. Okay? Then next, let's look at today's word, 가깝다. The biggest characteristic of 가깝다 is it's not a verb, it's adjective. But the key definition of English adjective and Korean adjective are different. In English, the main role of adjective is to decorate nouns in front of or after nouns. But in Korean, adjective mainly acts as predicates at the end of sentences like verb. So let's take a look at third topics. Things to be aware of Korean adjectives. Basically, adjectives serve to describe something, so you can't make a comment using them. However, it is the same that the basic structure of the sentence can be found by checking particle used with the predicates placed at the end of the sentence. And I'll give you one more tip. In Korean speaking, the subject is usually unnecessary, so it is natural to omit it. But I'll think about the sentence by dividing it into end with a verb and end with an adjectives. The subject is almost omitted for the verb ending sentences, but adjective ending sentences often requires a subject. because this adjective always tries to describe something. For example, the sentence 아파요 itself does not convey the key information of what hurts. No one will be able to help just by listening, I'm sick. It's important whether you have a headache or a stomach. So, adjective tends to need more subject than verb. Okay, the standard particle used with adjective is 이가. But if you're confused with 은는, then please watch my YouTube video through the link below. Then lastly, let's move on to how to practice your Korean sentences. For those who have never made a sentence before, I recommend you make a basic sentence first. As we have seen earlier, we can find basic sentence framework combines predicates and particles. Let's take a look at the PDF of today's word 가깝다. The particles used together are 에서, 에, 과. So it becomes 에서 가깝다, 에 가깝다, 과 가깝다. Check the examples to see what these three basic sentences means and find the expression that you can use in your daily life and change it a little bit to make it your own sentence. And I recommend you change the tense of the verb or the subject. If you want to make a more interesting sentence, then add some adverb like this, make your own sentences and submit your sentence on Facebook and memorize them as much as you can. I wanted to practice making this basic one at least for a month. Writing and speaking task level should be less difficult than your listening and reading task level. If you are confident in speaking and writing this basic form, then try a variety of expressions. Alright, today we looked into 4 subjects to get a handle on Korean sentence. Then let's briefly review with a simple quiz. Number 1. What is the most important thing in Korean sentences? Then number 2. What is the order of Korean sentences? Then number 3. What is the main role of Korean adjectives? Number 4. What determines the framework of Korean sentences? Okay, the next time I'm going to find a topic looking at your sentences. So please make your own sentence and show me. Have a wonderful first week for the long journey with me. Say 화이팅! Alright, and if you have any question, please let me know. 안녕!